Namaskar, Adab, Sat Sri Akal, Vanakkam. A very good morning to all viewers and listeners. You must be wondering why I chose to greet you in a pan-India style. Well, it is because of the nature of the project, that is, the magnum opus on the Kayasth community that we are here to discuss and understand over the course of the next 30 minutes. Let me start by introducing the man of the moment himself, Mr. Uday Sahay. Welcome, Mr. Sahay, and a very good morning to you.
Thank
Mr.
you,
Sahay,
thank you, thank you, Ishika, and a very good morning to you as well, and to all the audience who are with us.
Mr. Sahay voluntarily retired from the Indian Police Service in 2009, giving up his baton to wield a pen to chase his North Star in life. This is his eighth book as an author, and out of the earlier seven, his books on media by the Oxford University Press, on the Kumbh Mela, and on Bodh Gaya were widely acclaimed, establishing Mr. Sahay as an author with an authentic voice. To introduce myself, I'm Ishika Rout, a lawyer by profession, and my association with Mr. Sahay goes back many years. I'm sure, just like myself, a lot of our viewers have a multitude of questions in their mind on the Kayasth community. In all likelihood, they must at least be in touch with a considerable number of people from this community, if not belonging to the community themselves. This encyclopedia, brought out by Mr. Sahay, is an all-encompassing primer on the Kayasth community, discussing their history, heritage, culture, food, marriage, legal status, and the like. Mr. Sahay has undertaken the daunting task to actually study, research, and collate information by diving into this vast and previously unexplored area. Mr. Sahay, to begin with, please could you tell us, our viewers, what is the title of the book, what are its main chapters, and the arrangement of the book? Essentially, what does the book look like?
Sure. Ishika, basically the title is Kayasthas, an Encyclopedia of Untold Stories. It's about 400 pages, and it gives you a look of an illustrious pictorial volume on Kayasthas. And as you go through the book, there are chapters on history, mythology, migration, Kayasthas in different 21 states, the cuisine, the maybe the brand identities, etc., etc. There are about 15 chapters, and you get the pan-India encyclopedic view of Kayastha community in the book.
Wonderful. So it's basically a voluminous account that
Correct.
readers would, yes, amazing. So, Mr. Sahay, I think it will be wonderful if you could give us a brief background on the experience and credentials of the authors involved, authors who have majorly contributed to the book.
Well, Ishika, there are two authors. One is in front of you, Mr. Uday Sahay, that is me. And the other co-author is Dr. Professor Poonam Saxena. And she's popularly named as Poonam Bala, but she's from Saxena Kayasth, so I prefer calling her Poonam Bala Saxena. But in the title of the book, you will find only Poonam Bala, her name. Well, I was a part of civil service for about 21 years, and I served in police for about 12 years and 10 years in civil bureaucracy in Delhi, in Mizoram, and different parts of the country. And then I got into private sector, and we set up a publishing company, and now I'm majorly into publishing and writing. This is my eighth book, so to say, and primarily my interest lies in Indian civilization. So I've been working on different cities, on Kumbh, on Gaya, Bodh Gaya, Delhi, etc. And I intend to maybe study other ancient cities, because I feel that the soul of India lies not in the metro, nor in the villages, it lies in the ancient cities.
Correct, absolutely correct, Mr. Sahay. Mr. Sahay, I understand that there are three categories under the Kayasth community, and the community itself has undergone a lot of changes due to their habits of adapting to other religions and cultures over the years. So it would be wonderful if you could throw some light over it.
Yeah, Ishika, this is very interesting, because when we started this work our narrow view was that primarily Kayastha is the North Indian Hindi-speaking states phenomena. As we proceeded, we realized that, my God, we were not really correct. Uh, in Maharashtra, in Gujarat, in some parts of Madhya Pradesh, we found another big community called Chandraseniye Kayasth Prabhu. And they were Kayasth as much as the Kayasthas of Hindi heartland. And they were called Chandraseniye Kayasth as against the Hindi-speaking areas Kayasth who were called Chitragupta Vansiye Kayasth. So these are two important categories, but the story did not end here. As we proceeded to Bengal, Odisha, Assam, and even Tripura, we realized there's another huge chunk, and rather the biggest chunk of Kayasthas, who are what Professor Chitrarekha Gupta says, Chitraseniye Kayasth. And the difference was that in the first category, that's the Chitragupta Vansiye Kayasth, they directly worship Chitragupta, but amongst the Chitraseniye Kayas, they were focusing more on worshipping their ancestors and Vanshavalis and stuff. So that's broadly these three categories you find. In South, interestingly, most of them are still worshipping Chitragupta as their ancestral deity, and especially in Tamil Nadu, you have about 13 Chitragupta temples, and we are trying to figure out how many more are there in other parts of South.
Very interesting, Mr. Sahay, because I never knew that there were Kayasthas in the south. I always thought they were, restricted to the northern belt in India. Very interesting. So, Mr. Sahay, tell us, how different has this project been from your previous projects?
Well, previous projects, as I casually mentioned to you, Ishika, were more on the civilizational part of India, and I focused on the ancient cities, including Delhi, which is again not as, it dates back to Pandava's time. If you look at Purana Killa, the earliest site in Delhi, it's really ancient in that sense. But I was referring to, cities like Varanasi, city like Patna, cities Patliputra, cities like Bodh Gaya, cities like Prayagraj or Allahabad, cities like Ujjain or even Haridwar and so on. So my interest broadly was on that. But coming to this project, I realized that, look, you're trying to understand your own community, which is as ancient, and as I tried to explore the range and width of the community's spread, it was mind-boggling, and that's how my interest grew. And as the time passed by, I realized the enormity of the scope of the project, and it is almost towards the end now. So it's interesting to see all that came my way.
Very interesting, Mr. Sai. Um, so would you elucidate on the Varna and Jati status of Kayasthas? Because there's a lot of confusion regarding the identity of Kayasthas, even amongst Kayasthas themselves, interestingly. Because some say they originated as a branch of Brahmins who took to education, and then they emerged as a class of writers in India. Some others have in the past christened them as Shudras, for example, the Calcutta High Court in 1884. Further, the Patna High Court in 1926 held them to be Kshatriyas. So could you please elaborate on this further?
Well, Ishika, this is a very interesting field, especially for me, because my background is sociology, and I realized that not many of us are actually they come from a sociological tradition, so they are not able to clearly gauge the difference between Varna and Jati. Varna, as you understand, across India, you have a fourfold category broadly, and you have a Brahmin, you have Kshatriyas, you have Vaishyas, and you have Shudras. And there are claims and counterclaims regarding the fifth Varna and so on. I'm not getting into that, but broadly it's a fourfold category. As against this, Jati, if you look at, across the country, there are more than 8,000 jatis, and still the number has not frozen. There are again claims and counterclaims, and every day you see that new group is coming and trying to assert that, look, we are this. So therefore, it's very important to understand that the Varna model is a kind of a fixed model. It's a kind of an ideal model. It's a kind of a theoretical model. But Jati model is a more existential, real model. And therefore, in the Varna model, by and large, the top position and the bottom position are fixed. But in the Jati model, there are claims and counterclaims. Though in one part of India, you find somebody to be backward, the other part of the country, you find the same lot to be a forward caste, and so on. And therefore, so far as Kayasthas are concerned, there were debates, and at one point of time, there were politics, and people were trying to run down each other, and there were vested interests within the community to be seen as a Shudra because it protected your property, etc., which you will get in the book when you go through. Eventually, the matter was settled in the Calcutta High Court, which clearly said that they were of Kshatriya Varna, but their Jati was Kayasth. They were of Kshatriya Varna, but their Jati was Kayasth. So that matter was settled last. Nobody has kind of challenged that so far. So that's the position broadly. But at the same time, you would also like to know that in one part of the country called Gorakhpur, there are a group of Sanskrit scholars who are trying to establish, or who believe that Kayasthas were basically belonging to god Brahmins, and they have their followers in Varanasi, they have their followers in Ujjain, and very vociferously they try to push this theory that Kayasthas are Brahmins. But if we get into that debate, it's an unending debate. So my focus has been on Jati than Varna. And this book therefore says that if you look at Varna, you will get at many of the big kings who were basically Kayasthas, but they have been, because of the Kshatriya Karan process, they have been defined as Kshatriya. And therefore, we have tried to not to get into that debate as much. We have focused on the real, not the ideal. Yeah.
I see, Mr. Sai. Thank you so much for the clarity. Moving on, given that, we are currently seeing an atmosphere of assertion of identity in India, and at the same time, we are also seeing a movement away from the caste system, especially amongst the younger generation. I believe this book seeks to balance both sets of sensitivities by offering a historical account, which would actually appeal to a wide readership. What would be your thoughts or comments on this?
Yeah, I mean, this is a challenge because, when Milton Singer, the American anthropologist, undertakes the study of a community in India, all of us, lap up and say that what a great study he has done. But if you have an Indian picking up the subject, you are not sure, and you start actually criticizing that not only he's studying caste, maybe in the process, he's trying to perpetuate caste, which is not the case. So in this book, we have tried to be very clear that this is a study of not only the identity, which is important, but also the heritage. And heritage of thousands of years cannot be just brushed aside just because it is categorized as a particular community or a jati. And in our case, the other issue was that there are etic and emic study. The one study focuses on a community at a particular point of time. The other focuses on community over a period of time. So we tried to focus, for example, if you look at Kumar Suresh Singh's classic work called Peoples of India Project, they documented almost all communities in India statewise. And they had engaged, the Anthropological Survey of India had engaged about 4,000 anthropologists and sociologists to do the work. So it turned out to be a mammoth work, and still it remains as a classic. But the difference was that it was focusing on communities at a particular point of time as they existed. But how they became what they became and how they evolved over a period of time, that part was interestingly missing. In this study that we have attempted, we have tried to see the evolution of not only caste in general, but of Kayasth community especially. And I would like to sum that up by saying that it emerged. If you look at history and the proto-history, then you realize that uh, Indian tradition was predominantly dominated in the beginning by what we call Shruti and Smriti Parampara, the oral tradition, which was predominantly or which was dominated by Brahmins of the time. They were the intellectual elites of the period. No judgment as such, but that's the fact. And only with the emergence of states that you had a requirement of documenting things, not only for issuing order, but for communicating, but for appointment, but for land records, etc. And with this demand came a supply called the writers class. And this writers class, over a period of time, got consolidated into a caste called Kayasthas. Therefore, for example, in the beginning, you'll find that the mention of Chitragupta to be very ancient, but the word called Kayasthas emerging only later. And in the transition period, you had a class of people called Karnams, which was writers class. And you had, therefore, you have Kayasthas, a particular kind of Kayasthas in Bihar called Karna Kayasth. You go to Odisha, they are called Karna Kayasth. You go to Andhra, they are called Karnams, even today. And you further go down to, say, Karnataka, they are called Karnika. And you go down to Tamil Nadu, they are called Karnikas. And you can see the underlying thread. And it also talks about, it gives you an idea of the trajectory that it formed. And therefore, the transition from, say, oral tradition to the writing tradition involved a transition, emergence of a class called writers class, who gradually spread to different parts of the country. Mythologically, of course, we trace our origin to Ujjain, because Ujjain was the place where Chitragupta is supposed to have descended. And near Ujjain, you have a very interesting place called Kayastha. And this Kayastha is the exact location from where Chitragupta descended from heaven. And he is supposed to have done a penance. He got married here. He had 12 sons, and these 12 sons actually migrated to different parts of the country, including, say, Bengal, including, say, Kashmir, including, say, Gujarat, and down south. And there is no fix, one destination to another destination migration. They have migrated extensively, so there is a back and forth movement. And therefore, that, if you can start connecting the lines, so you will realize that in this part of the country, all of us would like to go and see what it is, and so that we realize that from here we migrated. And not only even you as a Bengali caste, in course of time would realize that you were not from Bengal, you actually migrated at a particular point of time from Kannauj, because there was a need to modernize the governance and stuff. So all that you will get in the book.
Very interesting, Mr. Sahay. Well, having said that, I'm sure people are intrigued by the book as much as I am and cannot wait to get their hands on it. So, in this regard, Mr. Sahay, please tell us, what is the launch date, where will it be released, and how can people purchase the book? Also, will there be an ebook given the pandemic? If people, in case, cannot visit bookstores, can they access it online?
Yeah, very smart question, Ishika, because you should know when it's going to be launched and how do we buy it. Well, we have decided 27th of April to be the launch date, because this was the date when we presume, the mythology tells us, Chitragupta, Sri Chitragupta Bhagwan actually descended on earth. And interestingly, we have forgotten that date, and the southern Kayasthas are observing it meticulously even till date. For the whole month, they have a Chaitrai event, which is celebrated all across Tamil Nadu. But unfortunately, because of the invasions, many of our own traditions, we have either got confused or forgotten. We are celebrating Chitragupta Puja on a wrong day, which is a Yam Dutiya, a day after Diwali. Whereas correctly it should be the Purnima day of Chaitra month. And Chaitra month is the first month of the Hindu calendar. And Chaitra month is associated with Chitragupta. And in different parts of the country, for example, in UP, you have a Chaiti Geet, a particular music tradition called Chaiti Geet, and so on. Even the Chandraseniya Kayasthas in Maharashtra have a lot of, give a lot of importance to Chaitra month, etc. So now gradually awareness is coming up, and we would like people to know that when their ancestral god actually was born, and that was on the 27th of April 2021, that we'll be launching the book. Now, the first launch will take place in Delhi, and then we are planning for a multi-city launch, at least in Kolkata, in Mumbai, in Hyderabad, and Bangalore, if possible. We also plan that for the distribution, from the point of view of distribution, not only they will be on the shelves of the different important bookstores, we will put it on Amazon, we'll put it on Flipkart, and maybe over a period of time on Kindle, so that people can access, and without any hassle, they can straight away buy online.
Interesting. That's wonderful. And also the fact that, the launch date has central significance to the book is wonderful.
Exactly,
So,
exactly.
yes, Mr. Sahay. Mr. Sahay. With that, we come to the end of our discussion. And all the best, Mr. Sahay. Thank you so much for your valuable time. And thank you for undertaking this project in the first place. It is a gift not only to the KAYASTH community, but it's a treasure indeed for all generations to come.
Thank you once again very much for this time and your energy, and wish you all the best.
Thank you, Mr. Sahay. I'm sure this book will meet this objective.
Take care. Bye.
Thank you so much. Take care.